What if an entire band's discography wasn't just a bunch of songs, but one single unfolding story? Well, today, that's exactly how we're going to treat the lyrical universe of Cigarettes After Sex, like one cohesive narrative, tracing a single character through this devastating arc of love and decay. Let's dive in.
Okay, so at the very heart of the Cigarettes After Sex universe is this one really powerful idea, what I'm calling the aestheticization of catastrophe. It's basically the art of taking doomed romance, taking self-sabotage, and making it all feel impossibly beautiful. Every single lyric, every smoky melody, it's all crafted to capture those intimate moments where devotion is just destined to collide with destruction.
So, to really get this, we're going to follow the story chronologically. We'll treat each album as its own distinct act, in like a three-part tragedy. We're going to trace the anatomy of this decay, following our narrator's character arc from that first debut album all the way through their latest work.
This story, it really unfolds across three distinct emotional acts. It kicks off with this pure, almost wide-eyed idealization of love, a desperate attempt to just capture perfection. But that kind of idealism, it just can't last. And it descends into this painful, self-aware dissolution where our narrator has to confront their own flaws. And finally, the story ends up in this place of reckless decadence, where the destruction itself becomes the whole point.
So let's start at the beginning. Act 1, the self-titled debut album. This is where the foundation of our tragedy is laid. We meet a narrator who is completely obsessed with capturing these fleeting moments of beauty, just desperate to make this idealized love last forever.
And this one line from the song K, it just perfectly captures the emotional core of this first album. It's this plea for permanence, right? A deep-seated fear of separation that really drives every single romantic gesture. It's the sound of someone just holding on as tightly as they possibly can.
The themes here are just grand. They're almost cinematic. Love is totally sacrificial. The narrator would gladly break my heart for you. The settings are fantastical, like building an opera house in the deepest jungle. It's all about framing simple affection in the most dramatic way possible, just trying to make these beautiful, fleeting moments last. Now this is where we bring in a little data. We analyze the lyrics to get a sentiment score, which is basically a number from -1 to +1 that tells us the emotional tone. So the debut album scores a 0.38. That's on the positive side for sure, and it's driven by all those grand idealistic moments. But it's not sky high, right? It's already being pulled down by this undercurrent of loss and conflict, hinting at the tragedy that's about to come.
And that brings us to Act 2, the album Cry. And here, oh man, everything changes. This is the turning point. This is where the narrator stops blaming the world for their problems and starts looking in the mirror, realizing that maybe they're the source of their own chaos. And this slide just illustrates that shift perfectly. In the debut, you've got this narrator fighting against the world to keep love alive. But in Cry, the conflict becomes internal. They admit that they're the one who's unable to commit, that they're the source of all the instability. It's a really painful moment of self-awareness.
And this is the confession at the very heart of the album. My heart just can't be faithful for long. It's a direct admission of their fundamental flaw. The romantic obsession is still totally there, but now it's paired with this devastating knowledge that they will be the one to break it. Okay, so looking at the data, you might think things are improving. The sentiment score actually goes up to 0.43. But that number is so deceiving. The emotions have become way more volatile. That score is masking a darker, more profound pain, with these fantasies of like dying in a romantic airplane crash over the ocean. The highs are getting higher, sure, but the lows are becoming truly devastating.
Which brings us to our final act, the reckless crash of the album X's. Here, that self-awareness from Cry just curdles into hedonism. The narrator stops fighting their destructive tendencies and starts leaning right into them.
And this shift is captured in one stark line from Ambient Slide, "Take my love with sulpitam." So sulpitam is the generic name for the prescription sedative Ambien, and suddenly the emotional landscape isn't just smoky and melancholic anymore, it's explicitly chemical. Love and intimacy are now being filtered through prescription drugs.
So yeah, the themes get much darker and way more explicit. We hear about living on pills and lines, being with someone they love but don't really like. The central tension becomes this contrast between genuine feeling and totally destructive behavior. Our narrator has abandoned any attempt at purity and is now just embracing the chaos.
And our final chart? Well, it shows the full story. The sentiment for X's lands at 0.40, still in that kind of neutral positive range, but now we understand why. It reflects a destructive environment that is being masked by these moments of intense, overwhelming physical pleasure. The narrator has found a way to feel good inside the wreckage.
So, we've traced the narrator's emotional arc. But how does the band make this 3-album story feel so cohesive, so claustrophobic? Well, the answer lies in this specific toolkit of signature symbols that the songwriter Greg Gonzalez uses to tie this entire universe together.
One of the most powerful tools is what we can call cinematic framing. See, in these songs, intimate, personal moments are almost never just allowed to exist. Instead, they're constantly being framed through specific pop culture references, which turns a raw memory into something more like a curated, stylized movie scene.
And these references are just incredibly eclectic. I mean, they range from high art, like Burt Stern's photos of Marilyn Monroe, to the super deep-cut obscure, like a Marvel swimsuit special. We get literary nods to Brautigan, icons like John Wayne, and yeah, even explicit references to porn sites. The effect is that real emotions are always being filtered through some pre-existing cultural lens, almost like the narrator can only understand their own life by comparing it to media.
This table shows another fascinating pattern. Just look at the water imagery. Oceans, waves, beaches. It is a constant presence across all 3 albums. It's like the stage where this drama unfolds. Now contrast that with the references to drugs and pills. They are completely absent for the first 2 acts, and then suddenly, bam, they appear in the third. It's a new, destructive prop that's been brought onto that consistent, watery stage.
Even a simple color tells a story here. The word blue appears 4 times. In the beginning, it's just this atmospheric, melancholic color. The valley went blue. By the final album, its meaning has completely shifted. It becomes a specific genre reference, a baby blue movie, hinting at pornography and decadence. The color's evolution completely mirrors the narrator's own journey. Which brings us to our final question. After tracing this entire arc, is this a story about doomed love? Or is it really about a narrator who is addicted, not to another person, but to the beautiful, cinematic tragedy of the crash itself? I think that's the question right at the heart of their music. Thanks for tuning in.